Shining Set Out on Revolution Radio, Revolution.radio. That's right, coming to you from Australia all the time, the fictitious continent down under. This is show number 588.
Correct.
880 and 500, second hour. We're going to talk about the unseen. Just a quick recap. We talked about all the things that we can't see because they're too fast or too slow or outside the spectrum of visible light or because they're being filtered out by our brain simply because it's not relevant to look at. Right? These are all things that, I guess, add to the fact that we have very, very limited vision, and some of it is, for our own survival. The filters are there to identify the things that eat us before anything else. But ultimately, we miss a lot of the world. We miss a lot. We don't see it. And only recently, with high-speed photography, has opened up a whole new world of understanding what goes on, of being able to explain things which before we just couldn't explain. Last week we talked about the flight of bees, for example, which was a complete mystery to us, and also for future applications, of course. Looking around, so things can move so fast that we simply cannot see them, right? And they could also move so slowly that we do not perceive them as moving, like a tree or grass.
Yes.
You notice that grass grows, of course you do, but you don't see it grow. And you don't see a tree move. And you don't see the fight that a tree might have with a vine, like a vine is trying, to strangle the tree in the jungle or whatever. You don't see it. To you, it's just a vine on a tree because you move too fast. Think about that for a second, right? We are moving, all of us, living beings,
I wasn't able to find that.
At different speeds.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just, at cross purposes. We never like two ships in the night. Now, Dave, this one I think you like best because we talked about all the things we can't see, and this has to do again with the visible light, etc. But there's something called a phase shift that might hamper our ability to perceive an object.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll start with invisibility cloak breakthrough hides objects from human view. Just let that sink in. Just gonna say, take your mind back to some of the footage from Iraq, where it looked like people were cloaked that went and climbed up onto a tank or an armored vehicle of some kind. If you don't remember those, that's one thing. There's a technology now that you can have. I've got 3 screens at home, for instance, and you can put this technology down where the bezels join, and it deletes the bezels. It just deletes them. You don't see them anymore. So this same kind of technology, and it takes a while to flow out of military, but there's also some rumors that it is real and it's been a thing. So the Alex Knapp, Forbes staff. I'm a senior editor at Forbes covering healthcare and science. July 30th, 2011. So 12 years ago. 12:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Listen, look at me reading everything. This article is more than 10 years old, and it depicts a whole bunch of things. I'm just going to pop that on the screen so people can see it. And I've shared the link with the audience also. The credit for the imagery goes to the American Chemical Society. And it says, probably one of the most fascinating areas of applied physics right now is in the area of invisibility cloaks. I wrote earlier, this is Alex Knapp. Oh, George Knapp was the guy I was trying to think about last week. No, last show. Last week. Yeah, but in the previous hour. Because Knapp wrote earlier this month about a team of physicists using phase shifting of light to hide objects In time, however, that tech is still impractical at this stage because it only cloaks an object for a fraction of a second. In other areas of cloaking experimentation to date, researchers have only been able to hide objects from microwaves or infrared waves. Just turning off the video now. Blah, 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 blah. Which are below human vision. Thresholds. I sound like Biden now, getting all the words wrong. So, while an object under those cloaks are invisible to an infrared camera, a person could see it just fine. That is, I'm going to give an example. If you're standing in front of an infrared camera and you hold up a sheet of glass with handles that are behind on your side of the glass, it can't see you anymore. So that's another thing. You can see visible light through it, and you can see the person holding up the piece of glass, but the infrared is cloaked, right? That's one example. But now a team of researchers has demonstrated the first cloak that's able to hide an object from human sight. They did this by developing a carpet cloak made from a special etched layers of silicon oxide and silicon nitride. So the cloak is placed over an object, but the etching of the cloak basically hides the bump that appears from the object you're hiding, making it look like it's still a flat surface. You can see the results of this in different visible wavelengths in the figure above, which I've already shown, which comes from their paper in this month's, that was 2011, Nano Letters. It was all published in Forbes, and I'm going to just nick a copy of that link, and I'm going to pop that into the chat room so they can see that too.
So, just to be clear, cloaking technology is no longer a science fiction fantasy. That's why it's here. We are now looking at so this was 10 years ago. I haven't found anything more recent that is, as detailed as this. But I'm going to endeavor to find some more stuff, because in the 10 years, we must have gotten a lot further in our cloaking abilities. But that's happening. Cloaking is the thing that we're investigating actively, and we're trying to build, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dave, we'll take this one in turns because it's a long one. This one is achieving invisibility, cross wavelength invisibility integrated with invisibility tactics. This was from physics.org. The article was written by Tamarasi G1 Blada in September 30, 2020. It's a feature article. Invisibility is a superior self-protecting strategy of long-standing interest in academia and industry, although the concept is thus far most popularly encountered in science fiction. In a new report on science advances, Su Zhu and colleagues in engineering, nanotechnology, nanobionics, and quantum information in China were inspired by the natural ecological relationship between transparent oceanic animals and their predators that employ a cross-wavelength detection strategy. Scientists proposed a new concept of cross-wavelength invisibility that integrated a variety of invisibility tactics. They represented a Boolean metamaterial design strategy to balance divergent material requirements across cross-scale wavelengths. As proof of concept, they simultaneously demonstrated long-wave cloaking and short-wave transparency using a nano-imprinting technique. The work extended stealth techniques from individual strategies of invisibility targeting a single wavelength spectrum to integrated invisibility targeting cross-wavelength applications. These experiments will pave the way to develop cross-wavelength integrated meta devices, Dave.
Becoming transparent. Allowing the passage of light through the body is a superior self-defense strategy in the ocean for mid-water organisms. For example, amphipod crustacean. No, I'm not going to read that. It's a cystosoma.
Very good.
Is mostly transparent aside for some necessary organs, including eyes to avoid detection, by predators. However, a few predators can still detect and successfully attack transparent prey due to their cross-spectral vision. If prey could conceal themselves completely by balancing the prey-predator interaction to overcome the cross-spectral vision of predators, their survival rates would be much higher. Zhu and all were bio-inspired by this ecological relationship when they proposed a concept of cross-wavelength invisibility that simultaneously integrated long-wave cloaking and short-wave transparency. The new strategy complements existing mainstream strategies of chameleon-like adaptive camouflage and the wave bypassing invisibility cloak. In this work, scientists break the existing ecological relationship by attempting to hide the transparent prey from the cross-spectral vision of their predators. As a result, the philosophy of invisibility will be of significance for practical stealth technologies.
Constructing a device of invisibility. The strategy proposed here aims to realize concepts that have so far remained rooted in science fiction. For instance, Zhu et al. Envisioned their invisibility philosophy to contribute to the development of a futuristic, transparent stealth aircraft in the lab, where pilots will be able to freely view the surroundings without detection via the microwave radar system. The team constructed the experimental device using microscopic silver-nickel wires to ensure extremely low optical conductivity with nano-imprinting fabrication. The results demonstrated an optical transparency from 400 nanometers to 760 nanometers and significantly reduced scattering in the microwave regime from 6 to 10 gigahertz. The team could penetrate the transparent cloak with visible light, blue and yellow rays, with negligible loss, allowing the internal observer to freely view outside. The team engineered their optically transparent microwave invisibility cloak with two meta surfaces imprinted on flexible polyethylene terephthalate. So it's polyethylene terephthalate, which is PET, films, and isolated by a curved PET spacer. The internal layer of the meta surface acted as a perfect elastic conductor, a PEC, boundary, while external ring resonators on the meta surface provided proper phase compensation and amplitude preservation effects. So that's pretty serious stuff, Dave. They're doing it.
Yeah, totally. Engineering the electromagnetic response and developing the optically transparent microwave cloak. Zhu and all engineered the electromagnetic response for microwave invisibility according to the generalized Snell's law and used 8 kinds of ring resonators to build the cloak. Designing unit cells alone for microwave invisibility was insufficient to realize cross-wavelength invisibility. Therefore, the team adopted a Boolean metamaterial design strategy to merge metastructures to achieve integrated single-band functionality. To accomplish this, they integrated the metastructures for the microwave regime and visible regime by adopting a Boolean logical multiplication, denoted by, I forget what that symbol is. Let's say the up arrow and, A and D.
Same.
It's, what's it called?
No, that's add.
Yes.
The symbol is add.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. In an integrated circuit, the integrated metastructures were equal to the macroscopic metallic network formed by mapped microscopic metal wires exhibiting an extremely high local electrical conductivity while preserving an extremely low global optical conductivity. To construct the optically transparent microwave cloak, the team chose an advanced nano-imprinting technique that provided a large area metasurface to conceal macroscopic objects and enable high precision, fabrication of the macroscopic metal wires of the microscale. They conducted optical characterization of the outer layer by scanning electron microscopy, SEM. The scientists developed the outline of the microscopic ring resonator with metallic circular wires and orientated several shorting wires along the radial direction to connect the circular metal wires. The team conducted a field test to experimentally prove the optical see-through vision of the optically transparent cloak compared to direct observations without the cloak, to allow the user to see through the cloak with minimal distortion. Meki.
That's phenomenal. Stealth technology. The scientists experimentally showed the microwave cloaking performance under transverse electric TE and transverse magnetic TM polarized incidence and studied the total scattering reduction of the sample across different frequencies. The phase and amplitude of the wave reflected from the cloak was much like the wave reflected from the ground plane, causing substantial reduction of total scattering. In this way, the cloak decreased the total scattering of the object beyond the frequency range from 6 to 10 GHz. The results showed the achievement of cross-wavelength invisibility with preserved amplitude and undistorted phase at microwave frequencies, alongside omnidirectional transparency across the visible spectrum. Compared to carpet cloaks developed in the past, this work presented an experimental demonstration to achieve invisibility across cross-wavelength regions by combining multiple schemes of invisibility. The stealth technology detailed here will be more accessible with advanced nanofabrication technologies. By combining long-wave cloaking and short-wave transparency in his work, Su and colleagues allowed the eyes of the stealth system to clearly observe the external world while remaining undetected. Compared to existing methods of electromagnetic wave control, the Boolean metamaterial design provided a strategy to combine various invisibility strategies for cross-wavelength invisibility integration. The work includes integrated logic circuits and paves the way to realize multifunctional or multi-physics devices within compact dimensions. It's always about the usability of something. If something is the size of a house, you can't really put it in a plane. But this stuff seems to be of the right size. This is amazing.
It is. I want to add something here. Like, there's an experiment you can do if you have two glass jars, one reasonably larger than the first, and you can put something. They've got to be like roughly the same height. So you place the smaller jar inside the larger jar, and you fill the outer jar, not the inside one, but the one that's on the outside. You fill that up with just regular cooking oil. And when you place an object in the empty jar in the middle, you can't see it from the outside. It's a perfect way of being able to prove, even with the torch on the rear, you can't see what's in the inside jar. And that has been the goal of all of these cloaks, is to just bring from one side to the other the light from the opposite side. You can render something invisible by just making either like it apparently transparent, but really you're just displaying on the side of the observer what is being blocked by your target. If you yourself are the target, what's behind you is opposed to what the person in front of you sees. So if you obscure it, then you're a target. But if you are able to place what's behind you to look like it's in front of you, then you're unseen. And that whole idea of the cloak is, that was science fiction, Mackie, when I was growing up.
Oh, completely.
The Philadelphia experiment was an attempt at cloaking.
Yes, it was.
By using high-frequency electricity. And in some of these descriptions, could you hear some of the wording they were using, which was similar?
I know, right? No, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's the cool thing, though, right? The cool thing is that only in my science fiction days, only the Klingons were able to have cloaking devices. Right? Only the Klingons, no one else. And then the Federation got it. And now, the funny thing is this, to your point, we've now moved well beyond the realms of science fiction. Where now this is happening. It's a thing. It's not, yeah.
We have plasma drive now.
Yeah, there it is. What? Excuse me? Yeah, absolutely.
Faster than light, that's what I want next. I want to bend. I don't want fast. Actually, no, let's skip faster than light and just go to bending space. That's what I want.
That would be pretty cool, I have to say. That'd be pretty awesome.
One thing, Meki, I didn't mention this at the top of all of these shows, but with a predator has a problem seeing something in a distance in the heat of a savanna, and that is your brain is incapable of understanding an object's three-dimensional, how it fills a three-dimensional space. It doesn't understand it until it can see light and shadows, light and dark. And you'll notice something extraordinary about prey creatures in, say, the African, in the theater of attack for a herd of anything. And what they do is they have darker material on the top half and lighter material on the bottom half. So of their torso, for instance, they'll be down to about, you could call it the plimsoll line for a fish. And they'll have a darker patch there and a lighter underneath. Now, from a distance, they equal each other out because the amount of sunshine and the amount of darkness that you're shading your underneath is balanced to have a net effect of you not being there.
Yep.
From a predator's perspective. And that's golden. I just love that. That was one of the things that I just, there's a few. In fact, if you have a look at my own personal YouTube channel, I have a cutout of a chessboard with a cylinder. It's the green cylinder thing. Trick, I'll paste it into the chat room so you can have a look. And I've got a copy of one of the squares as an A and B square, and I move them around. And your brain perceives it in a way that is totally in disbelief that what squares actually line up with the A and Bs, right? It won't make sense till you have a look, but I will paste the link in a jiffy into the chat room, and if I can actually display it. No, I'm not going to bother. I'll put the link into the video's description as well.
Now, that gets us to one of the things that triggered the show. There were two reports of cities that appeared in the sky in China. Two. One was 2015. I think the other was 2017, but I got double check that. But essentially, there they were, right? And people didn't know what to make of it. You might have seen it. Oh, sorry, that was 2016. One was March 18, 2016, and one was October 2015. Okay, so October 18. Okay. Anyway, the point is, you might have seen it on TV. It's a few years ago now, but there's a picture here in the show notes that shows, I guess, clouds, and then there's these I don't know, monolithic type buildings, skyscraper-like buildings that seem to be appearing in the clouds. And this the second time in 2016, it's quite similar as an appearance, except that they're a bit more orderly, appearing like a whole bunch of apartment buildings in the distance, but they aren't actually there. So the first two articles here are the official articles that are out there, and the first one, in fact, is from a debunking site written by Kim LaCapria. Now, it's important that we get through these because we need to come to the end of it to understand why this is important. Now, did thousands of people in China witness a floating city mirage? I published October 19, 2015. In October 2015, multiple websites reported that a rare mirage known as the Fata Morgana had appeared over the city of Foshan in the Guangdong province of China at an unspecified but recent time. The date of the purported anomaly wasn't referenced in any reports. This mysterious cityscape appearing in the China sky. There was a video of it released today on Facebook. It's allegedly called Fata Morgana or Optical Illusion. There's a couple of videos of it on YouTube, and it's just flat out bizarre. So this is some of the commentary that went around at that time. Everyone's been talking about it. It's crazy looking. On October 18, 2015, the British Independent news site published an article titled "Ominous Cloud Looming Over China Creates Apparition of Floating City." Okay. Footage of the phenomenon appears to show tower block-like formations over the city of Foshan in the Guangdong province of China, apparently bringing many people to a standstill in the street. It reportedly lasted only a few minutes before disappearing. Experts said the phenomenon, the video of which was shown on Chinese television, was a common optical mirage, according to the Inquisitor. The online commentator Julie Wagner said, "In my opinion, CERN, HARP, and Project Bluebeam could all have a little something to do with this. We just never know because the media only tells what the elite are allowed to be told. I'm certain there are those of you who know what and who I'm referring to when I say elite. It's definitely something we will be seeing more of." That's not us talking, that's a commentator online, Julie Wagner. Okay. On October 19, 2015, an entry on the popular website IFL Science similar framed the rumor as one involving an event that had in fact occurred, reporting thousands of residents from Jiangxi in Foshan in China reported seeing a floating city in the sky earlier this month. The images and grainy video footage appeared to show towering skyscrapers poking out of the clouds and looming over the ground below. However, it appears the explanation is actually a rare type of mirage called Fata Morgana. It's essentially, you have to remember this, Fata Morgana. It's essentially an optical illusion caused by specific weather conditions bending light rays. Both websites sourced the information from online reports claiming that the phenomenon had been witnessed by thousands of people, but most of these repetitions lacked very basic details, such as when this eye-catching mirage occurred, or any evidence that even as many as a dozen people saw it. In fact, no eyewitnesses were identified or quoted across the web. Moreover, most photographs of the purported floating city were sourced not from the thousands of individuals who purportedly witnessed the event, but from a single video published on YouTube October 13, 2015. That is not very amazing to me because China is super censory. They censor everything. So I'm not surprised there's only one video. The video, which was embedded, Mysterious City Appears in the Sky Above China, was shared by the channel Paranormal Crucible, the about page for which reads, "Hi, my name is Murray, and I love everything about the paranormal and the bizarre. My video reports may seem a little far out to some people, but I'm very open-minded and believe everyone should have an open mind, especially concerning the paranormal." The video's specific description claimed the footage was captured by a local resident, and its events were witnessed by hundreds, when the number became thousands was unclear unless we're counting YouTube views. The video shared by IFL Science involved identical still photos of the purported floating city, but it was published to YouTube on October 9, 2015, and seemingly taken from a Chinese newscast. Additional reports were published to news sites explaining how Fata Morgana worked, describing the Chinese event as an example of that phenomenon, often while noting that such optical illusions typically occur immediately above the horizon and not high in the sky, but not explaining how a large anomaly in 2015 could be witnessed by hundreds, later thousands of locals reportedly viewing such a breathtaking event without any of them sharing different images of the mirage to services such as Weibo. All versions of posts about this phenomenon, the most watched of which originated with the Paranormal blog, hinged upon the same grainy Bigfoot-like footage and lacked any detail not visible in the videos. And this is really typical of debunkers. They always drag other things into it to make them as or less credible as possible, in this case, the Bigfoot footage. Finally, like many slightly too bizarre claims, again, value judgment, rumors indicated that the event occurred in China, owing to significant cultural and linguistic differences. Tall tales sourced to the country often passed off as real-life events occurring there. Viewers and readers are less equipped to double-check outlandish claims when their sources are harder to translate Chinese language. In the absence of any additional footage or any eyewitness accounts, it's far likely that the floating city in China was just a poorly vetted rumor that a real, rare, and stunning, rather than a real rare and stunning optical illusion. That's from Snopes. That said, this is that didn't really happen. It's not what they think it is, etc., etc. Now the next one, Dave, which you please share with us. This is really critically important. This is also a debunking article, by the way. Just if
you're curious. Yes. China's newest floating city is no mirage, but it's probably not real either. By Lee Spiegel, March 31st, 2016. Buildings appear to mysteriously rise above a layer of fog in China's Liaoning province, prompting speculation as to the cause of this event on March 18th, 2016. CCTV News/YouTube. China seems to have a monopoly on properties that float in the sky. For the second time in 5 months, on March 18th, a group of hovering buildings were reportedly seen and videotaped. Theories about what it could be range from a parallel universe portal to a hologram deliberately put into the sky to an alien invasion to a natural mirage known as Fata Morgana, reports express.co.uk. On March 19th, the next day, CCTV News, China's 24-hour English language television channel, posted the following video saying, quote, "A stunning mirage depicting a group of buildings was seen above the sea along the port of Dalian in northeast China's Liaoning province on Friday. Seen from the land, it appeared as though the buildings were looming in the fog, resembling a fairy city on the sea. Take a look at this splendid scene." I've already shared the image on YouTube, by the way. We have a few questions. What does this location look like when there's no fog? Who recorded the video? And is there any real evidence that hundreds of people reported seeing the city? Neither CCTV nor Express.co.uk responded to a request for comment from the Huffington Post, so we're left without some vital details. But analysis of a previous floating city over China reported in October provides some clues about what we're probably looking at. That city was supposedly observed by residents of the cities in Foshan and Zhengxi. At the time, the apparition was widely explained as a natural mirage or optical illusion called a Fata Morgana. That hypothesis came from a Texas A&M University atmospheric scientist. Alan, I won't pronounce his surname, is an independent filmmaker who also debunks fake and viral online videos, even ones that have fooled most critical eyes. Alan explains in the video last year that the previous floating city could not be Fata Morgana and was probably a hoax. Fata Morgana is an extra shimmery, multi-layered type of mirage that occurs in rare atmospheric conditions. Alan, who goes as Captain Disillusion, says the video above, they can make distant boats seem to hover above the ocean's surface, but they can't make a futuristic metropolis manifest out of nowhere. All mirages, including Fata Morgana, can only appear very close to the horizon. No mirage can extend thousands of feet up. We're hoping that Captain Disillusion weighs in on the most recent floating city video soon.
So just on that, now the first article which came from Snopes and debunked the first sighting in October of 2015 said it was a Fata Morgana. right? It said, "Oh, this is clearly what it is. Some kind of a weather phenomenon, etc., etc." Now, the second article, which refers to the second floating city, as well as the first floating city, which are only a few months apart, says, "No way. Look, no, it's not something amazing, but it is not a Fata Morgana, and this is why." Right?
Says science.
Well, he says though, I'm going to try his name, Melikjanian. Alan Melikjanian. Now he doesn't offer an alternative explanation other than it's a hoax.
That's right.
So that means there must have been then two hoaxes. Okay, so that's where we're left with two hoaxes. Fair enough. But it is not a Fata Morgana. So just to be clear here, so the first Snopes article was wrong. Well, maybe this article is wrong. It's my point here. So, yes, I don't have to jump on this and think, oh, there's a floating city in the sky, or maybe we're seeing something extraordinary. But I also don't know what it is, and unless you can prove it's a hoax, and to do that, you have to show how the hoax was done, and then show evidence in the videos or the footage or whatever it is that these are the indications of a hoax. You can't just say, oh, this is just too out there, it can't be real. It has to be a hoax. That's just like saying, oh well, the air is going to be sucked out of the train when you hit 80 miles per hour. That's the same.
28
kind of logic,
miles an hour.
Yeah, whatever it was. But the point is that we need to be, yes, we have to be very critical and we have to be very skeptical. But then we have to also provide evidence. You can't just say, oh, well, clearly this is not real. Based on what? Occam's razor? This is really making me angry all the time. Who determines what Occam's is? What is our baseline anyway? Where do we go for our baseline? Is there like some authority out there of standards and measures that says, okay, this is your Occam's razor baseline? No, this is just people say, oh, we just know it. It's a cultural and civilizational baseline nonsense. Anyway, having said that, we started thinking. And especially after watching Secret of Skinwalker Ranch and the appearance of a form, something like a blobby kind of thing, like a domey shaped thing, about 30 feet above the ground for about 1 or 2 frames in 1,000 frames a second shot. I started wondering about a number of things, right? And this, if you haven't seen the Skinwalker Ranch episode, I really highly recommend it because there is something there which is only visible for 1 or 2 of those frames in this high-speed camera, right? And it's only there because this rocket sort of exploded off it. They shot a rocket in the sky and sort of blew up. Now, could the technology being used to cloak these strange structures be active elsewhere on the planet? And how long has this tech been used?
Yeah.
What other places or things are cloaked in a similar manner, right? Because there's people. So the thing is, these people are disappearing all the time, right? Now we have theorized it could be portals, it could be abductions, of course. But how are they accomplished? What's the technology? What's the technology that's being used to make people disappear and make stuff reappear in a place that has been searched formerly? So an area is searched, nothing is found. People come back to it, stuff is found.
That's right.
Right? That's odd. And there are other things where it seems there's something going on, and all of a sudden, whatever's going on, it just disappears from view. And I'm talking about UAPs and UFOs specifically. They seem to blink in and out of existence. Right? Yes, they enter the water, they come out of the water, and they fly in the sky, but sometimes they just blink out of existence, and sometimes they just appear. They just pop into existence. Right? Now, is this some kind of cloaking technology that's being turned on and off? Are they emerging from behind a cloaked screen? Like it's there, but they're just exiting it, if you will. So something is cloaked. Let's call it cloaked because it's the best word we have. And they're just emerging from it. Is that what it is? Right? And again, Skinwalker Ranch, there have been quite a few instances where they observed this light in the sky, and then bloop, it just blinked out of existence. It didn't shoot away at an incredible speed. It just blinked out of existence. And this is really where it gets interesting. Now, was the Tower of Babel built to reach such a structure? What I mean by that is, now, if you want to reach a structure 30 30 feet, 30 meters, 100 meters above the ground, whatever it is. And it seems that these things are they're above the ground now. Again, on Skinwalker Ranch, they found an anomaly about a mile up in the sky as well. Right, so we've always focused on the ground, Dave. Right, we've always focused on the ground, the water, looking for portals, because to us that makes sense. Right, we would have these. I mean, where else would you put it? But then, if you have to, and now it seems obvious. But if you are truly an advanced civilization, why can't you put a portal or a station, a cloak station for that matter, into orbit or into the atmosphere or wherever? In fact, wherever, right?
Yeah.
Of course you could. Of course you could. And if you put it into the air, because this is another thing, then you wouldn't have to worry about any pesky locals stumbling into it. Okay.
Exactly.
Right. And maybe these portals that seem to exist on ground level, maybe they were just there for convenience, right? Or maybe they were opened by the equivalent of tourists, or who knows what, right? Sort of leftovers, unintended consequence. The law of unintended consequences. What happens if I open a portal on the surface? Right?
He's doing it again. I told him not to do it.
That's it. So now, what's the Tower of Babel such a structure? Now, Dave, why don't you share with us Genesis 11, 1-9?
Is that in the document?
Yeah. Well, I sent you the updated one, right?
Oh, when?
Maybe not. Hey, maybe I checked my email. It's actually in Skype. Should be in Skype.
Really?
Yes, sir. Hours ago. Hours. I'll tell you. I'll read Genesis.
Please do.
Now, the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and burn them thoroughly," which means really just bake them, right? And they had brick for stone, and they had tar for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top reaches to the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Now, this is really odd, because it's sort of like foreshadowing here, right? Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Which is, of course, exactly what happened. But then it goes on to say, "Then Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower that humankind was building. And Yahweh said, Behold, they are one people with one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. So now nothing that they intend to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so that they will not understand each other's language." So Yahweh scattered them from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore its name was Babel, for there Yahweh confused the language of the whole earth, and there Yahweh scattered them over the face of the whole earth. That's what it says in the Bible, Genesis 11, 1-9. What were they trying to build? A tower. Were they trying to reach something? Now, it is clear here, as with many other passages in the Bible, that this Yahweh fella doesn't really want to give us a bar of soap. He doesn't want to extend an olive branch, right? He's saying, well, this is just one thing they can do. Imagine what they will do after this. Imagine what they're going to do if we don't go out down there and confuse their language. What would they do? Right, and so clearly this is the kicker here. This is the important thing. This is a threat scenario. Yahweh preemptively diffuses a threat to him or his people or whatever. Okay, this is a preemptive strike, confusing the language, destroying the tower, and the city was then, well, when they stopped building it, I imagine they would have abandoned it as well. Okay, it doesn't say he destroyed the tower. That's not said anywhere. He just confused the language. And as I said before, I think the one thing that we all had was telepathy, that there was the common language, in my opinion. But you know what? Then I started looking deeper into it, because this is important and related. Because this is a threat. So clearly the entirety of Yahweh's kingdom and his power is completely unseen. Okay, so human beings are doing stuff, and someone doesn't like it, and it is clear that they know this. and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the face of the whole earth. So they had to build this tower into the heavens for whatever purpose, in order not to be scattered over the face of the earth. Because that's what they're saying. We have to make a name for ourselves. So they were trying to prove something. They were trying to accomplish something, right? And Yahweh stopped them from accomplishing it. Was it to reach one of those cloaked stations? I know it's a reach. I know it's highly speculative. I get it. But the point here is that the building of the city and tower was directly met with a very strong action from Yahweh and his folk. And then there is this, everybody. Dave, let's do this together. If you okay, good. Now, I found after some looking comparable myths that talk about the very same thing. So, Dave, why don't you get started on the Sumerian?
I don't have the notes.
What? I sent it to you, my friend.
What, again?
No, not again. Before.
Oh.
Before.
I'd happily go through the notes with you.
I will send them again. So I sent them to you. Here we go. There they are. I sent it. I'm signing. David Dunger, that's you.
So, via what transmission method, my friend?
Skype.
Okay.
Skype. I'll send it again. I'll send them again. That's what we do. Here we go. Updated, unseen 2. Open and send again. Let me know.
Got it.
You have it now.
I do have it now.
Because I sent it before.
Didn't see it before. All right, that's okay. It's okay.
Here you go. There it is.
Fiction.
Yeah, there it is. It's in another chat. I sent it at 2:00. Ha!
That's right. So, where are we?
This is page number 20. Comparable myths, Sumerian and Assyrian parallel.
Right, hang on. Scrolling up. Not lands in the sky. That's a bit later.
Yeah.
Comparable myths.
That's the one.
Sumerian and Assyrian parallel. Excellent. Thank you. There is a Sumerian myth similar to that of the Tower of Babel called Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata, where Enmerkar of Uruk is building a massive ziggurat in Fridu or Eridu and demands a tribute of precious metals from Arata for its construction, at one point reciting an incantation imploring the god Enki to restore, or in Kramer's translation, to disrupt, the linguistic unity of the inhabited regions, named as Shubur Hamazi, Sumer, Uriki or Urikai, Akkad, and the Matu land, the whole universe, the well-guarded people. May they all address Enlil together in a single language. In addition, a further Assyrian myth dating from the 8th century BC, during the Neo-Assyrian Empire of 911 to 605 BC, bears a number of similarities to the latter written biblical story. Becky.
I know, right? The Greco-Roman parallel. In Greek mythology, much of which was adopted by the Romans, there's a myth referred to as the Gigantomachy, the battle fought between the giants and the Olympian gods for supremacy of the cosmos. In Ovid's telling of the myth, the giants attempt to reach the gods in heaven by stacking mountains, but are repelled by Jupiter's thunderbolts. A.S. Klein translates Ovid's Metamorphosis 1.151 to 155 as following. Rendering the heights of heaven no safer than the earth, they say the giants attempted to take the celestial kingdom, piling mountains up to the distant stars. Then the all-powerful father of the gods hurled his bolt of lightning, fractured Olympus, and threw Mount Pelion down from Ossa below.
Wow. Mexico. The various traditions similar to that of the Tower of Babel are found in Central America. Some writers who connected the Great Pyramids of Cholula to the Tower of Babel. The Dominican friar Diego Duran, 1537 to 1588, reported hearing an account about the pyramid from a 100-year-old priest at Cholula shortly after the conquest of the Aztec Empire. He wrote that he was told when the light of the sun first appeared upon the land, giants appeared and set off in search of the sun. Not finding it, they built a tower to reach the sky. An angered god of the heavens called upon the inhabitants of the sky, who destroyed the tower and scattered its inhabitants. The story was not related to either a flood or the confusion of languages, although Fraser connects its construction and the scattering of the giants with the Tower of Babel. Very interesting. Another story attributed to the native historian Fernando del Alva Cortez. Oh, geez.
No, don't worry.
1565 to 1648, to the ancient Toltecs, states that after men had multiplied following a great deluge, they erected a tall zaculai, or tower, to preserve themselves in the event of a second deluge. However, their languages were confounded and they went to separate parts of the earth. There's that echoing of the same story again.
Again, Arizona. Still another story attributed to the Tohono O'odham people holds that Montezuma escaped a great flood, then became wicked and attempted to build a house reaching to heaven, but the Great Spirit destroyed it with thunderbolts.
Well, Nepal, traces of a somewhat similar story have also been reported among the Tharu of Nepal and northern India.
Botswana. According to David Livingstone, the people he met living near Lake Ngami in 1849 had such a tradition, but with the builders' heads getting cracked by the fall of the scaffolding.
Oh, wow. This one's long, but I think I'll get through it. In his 1918 book, Folklore in the Old Testament, Scottish social anthropologist Sir James George Fraser documented similarities between Old Testament stories such as the flood and indigenous legends around the world. He identified Livingstone's account with a tale found in Lozi mythology, wherein the wicked men build a tower of masts to pursue the creator god Niambi, who has fled to heaven on a spider web, but the men perish when the masts collapse. He further relates similar tales of Ashanti that substitute a pile of porridge pestles for the masts. Fraser, moreover, cites such legends found among the Congo people, as well as the Tanzanians, where the men stack poles or trees in a failed attempt to reach the moon. He further cited Kabi and Kuki people of Assam as having a similar story, the traditions of the Karen people of Myanmar, which Fraser considers to show clear Abrahamic influence, also relate their ancestors migrated there following the abandonment of a great pagoda in the land of the Karenai, 30 generations from Adam, where the languages were confused and the Karen separated from the Karenni. He yet notes another version currently in the Admiralty Islands, where mankind's languages are confused following a failed attempt to build houses reaching to heaven. Oh my goodness, Mackie!
I know, right? And when I started, look, this is just a couple hours of research, if I invest some serious time into it, I wonder what else I can find. But the point here is this: yes, some of it could be cultural bleed and copying, absolutely. But I want to put here, especially because of we're talking about Africa, we're talking about the Americas, we're talking, but even the Greco-Roman myths, well before Christianity, right? Maybe in parallel to the Abrahamic, the information here is quite compelling.
And that's the music. This has been yet another Shiny Side Out. In fact, it's episode 588. Coming up next is Jer Bear with his awesome show, After Hours. Tune in, love his music, love what he does, join in and become part of this revolution. We'll see you next week. But in the meantime, before next week's show, stay safe, and we'll see you in Plato's Cave Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7 Eastern Standard Time. Take care. 7 a.m.